I'm going to
And
just do
we're
it. Okay.
live. So in an amazing turn of events, the weekly this week is being hosted on the Some Gadget Guy YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us. I know we just put out links and stuff so you guys can catch us. This is of course the weekly tech chat show where every week we chat about amazing technology stories. And of course, the most amazing technology stories of this week will be the Consumer Electronics Show, as I am joined by none other than the illustrious Enabong Etta from Board at Work. Enabong, if you can say hello to the lovely people out in internet land.
Hello, guys. It's 9 a.m. I'm in the West Coast. Let's do this. That's what Juan always says.
That's normally what I say. So I just want to point out real quick, we will be joined by Sam, Black Iron underscore man, and Warren Bowman from BW1. They will be joining us, but they are not used to waking up this early for an internet broadcast, which is what I have to do every week. So welcome to my time zone, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, this is it's very different, and I'm glad that you were able to do this on a weekly basis with us. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I'm still half asleep, man.
I knew you would be. So I wanted to kick off with a uselessness of the week this week, and it's something that I'm a little cringy to be thrown around as the uselessness, because I really want projects like this to succeed, but I feel that in its current incarnation, it's not being handled the way it should. There's a little too much PR surrounding it, and that's of course the very public responses from John Legere at T-Mobile, the CEO T-Mobile, about their binge on video streaming service. And they're in a little bit of a scandal right now over how network traffic is being handled, over how certain video services seem to be getting throttled a bit more. And they're very reticent to use words like throttling. They're saying we're not throttling or we're not impacting the service because people are allowed to turn off binge on. So binge on is, of course, their free video streaming service. So just
Yeah.
like with their audio service, you can stream video and it doesn't count against your data on a T-Mobile plan. But not all video services are still on board. And when video services are on board, it seems that binge on will automatically reduce the streaming quality to the lowest possible setting to I say to preserve their network. So I was hoping you could weigh in because we had a lot of talking about on a previous episode of the weekly about net neutrality, about how the service could unfairly impact certain video services, sort of, promote certain video services over others.
hmm
And now with more information coming out, just how you feel about the responses, because it's becoming a PR battle when we're talking about a net neutrality issue.
Yeah. And Sam, thanks for joining.
Oh, hey, Sam.
Hey, what's going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Barely.
His voice is fairly
I love it.
raspy.
I love it. You East Coast guys on my time. This is my
Oh,
time.
dude.
How much energy it takes to be active and animated at 9 a.m.
Dude, you should ask E, man. My schedule is on everyone's time.
Yeah.
Real quick,
So
I'm going to let Enabong jump in. What we're talking about, the uselessness of the week, is the PR sort of spin on throttling binge on video services, Sam. So that's what we're talking about.
I think T-Mobile is right, and I think some of the services are right at the same time. I think the problem is because I have binge on also. I'm a T-Mobile customer, right? And they are right by saying that once you turn on, you go to a service, it will use a certain, it will go to a certain viewing rate and speed, if you want to call it that way, watching Netflix, say on your smartphone. But you can always up it by simply just going to HD or whatever format that you want to choose. That's what the service is. I think the problem they faced was they didn't actually, even though they explained it, they didn't go into further details because this arose from people complaining that either its service was a little bit slower or there were some issues, and why is my Netflix or my YouTube having shitty quality, so to speak. So YouTube was one of the companies that came out and said, "Hey, look, yeah, what do you call it again? T-Mobile is throttling our service." So it falls in that category to me of that half and half where we said, it becomes a dicey scenario. I think, T-Mobile, I don't know. T-Mobile is,
It's tricky stuff because
yeah,
I
We
was
said this
very vocal and I
already.
was very concerned, and we had all sort of varying degrees of what we felt was appropriate. But when you have a carrier, so they control the pipe to the internet, and they're promoting certain video services over others, you need a lot of transparency. You need a program where you can very quickly and efficiently get other video streaming services on board. And I think the major sin committed here was like you said, Ian, I completely agree with this. They were not vocal and transparent about what would happen to video services once Binge On was activated, and Binge On was activated for everyone across the board. So it wasn't you opted into Binge On. It was this great feature that T-Mobile activated for you.
for you, yeah.
And once Binge On is activated, it lowered the quality of streaming video services. If you disable Binge On and video counts against your data, then you can keep high quality streaming on by default. But that's not what they communicated with their customers. So
Yeah.
this is the tricky thing about net neutrality being so fresh. The FCC not even having a chance to respond to any of these claims yet is it doesn't violate the terms or the actual letter of the law of net neutrality. The FCC doesn't think that this is an a net neutrality violation, but it does feel like it's violating the spirit of a fair and even playing field and transparency with customers. What do you think, Sam?
I think we said it before when we started out with this whole, when we first heard about this whole binge on service. T-Mobile is doing something which, as well intended as it might be, still falls in a very gray area when it comes to net neutrality. What they're now saying is basically, and this was a concern we had, what happens to these services that aren't part of binge on? And I guess we have the answer now, right? It's basically going to get just your connection to those services probably going to get limited because at the end of the day, T-Mobile has its partners, and they want to make sure that their partners are happy. And if you're not part of the people in that T-Mobile playing field, you literally get shafted. End of story. So I think what they're doing is very clear.
Well, see, actually,
Wrong. I think
but
it's very
it's not
clear.
necessarily that, though.
Let me finish. It's clear. Let me finish.
Hello, okay,
Oh,
my
no, we
bad.
can hear you.
I thought you could. My bad.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah. Oh, you're just gonna cut me off like that. Oh my God, we have the Bowman.
You guys are so testy when you have
You
no
guys hear me?
sleep. This is amazing.
Oh, testy, dude. I've had the. What you're seeing here, this face here, is a face right off of the masseuse's table.
So I'm sorry, Sam. Go ahead and finish your thought. But Warren, what we're talking about, we're trying to wrap up the uselessness of the PR spin around T-Mobile's binge on service and how they aren't very well communicating with customers on what some of those issues are and whether or not this is a violation of net neutrality.
No, okay.
Sam, please finish your thought because I wanted.
You guys hear me?
I agree with you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So I agree with you. It doesn't violate the letter of the law. However, it does violate the intent of the law, the spirit of the law, because at the end of the day, what it is doing, it is basically prioritizing some services or some pipes, as if you want to put it that way, over others. And that's where I have an issue with it.
Just to counter on Sam's space, it's actually not prioritizing any pipes. It's downgrading everyone to the same level. Yeah. The problem is they didn't do a good job of just telling people, hey, look, we're gonna open it up for everyone. If you want to go high def or enjoy your service better, you just have to opt, like basically hit HD on YouTube, and that's what's going to do it. So they didn't do a good message of actually explaining that to people.
Well, that's what you're saying, but what Android Central, well, from what I understood from Android Central, it reads as though basically, if you look into the JavaScript, hidden by JavaScript, open the first bubble and you'll see almost all other video streaming is optimized for mobile. So you watch 3 more videos with the data plan. So basically, you're using their services. That is, from the way I'm reading it, prioritized.
Yeah.
And the services of people who are not part of that binge on service is not prioritized as being high quality. To me, that is violating the spirit of net neutrality. Even if it's just a feature you can turn on or off, it still violates the spirit because by default, you are saying these guys deserve more of your bandwidth than these other guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
I want
but
to
it's
hold on, guys. I want to get to Warren
go
because
ahead. Go
one of the
ahead,
things
Warren. Yeah.
that I think we're going to have an issue with in this discussion, because a lot of the people that write our laws don't understand favoritism or priority. And so even though quality might be reduced, do we have an issue with favoritism if one service is allowed to be on binge on and another one is not easily added to binge on? Because that was another issue that we had when it was initially launched. We spent a lot of time talking about YouTube. And just because money isn't being exchanged or you don't have like a YouTube Red, does that still qualify as a violation of net neutrality, the spirit of net neutrality, if you're prioritizing traffic to Netflix by giving them free bandwidth and then punishing YouTube? It doesn't matter if it's in HD or not in HD. Is that violating the spirit of net neutrality? But still, I'd like to get Warren's thoughts just on the whole PR side of this first before we wrap the uselessness, because I really do want to get to CES and we have been talking about this for a little bit.
I'm not sure if I heard the whole PR thing. Can somebody give me like the 5-second spin on what they tried to say?
John Legere has been very public on Twitter responding to high-profile tech commentators about how binge on is not throttling. At the same time, T-Mobile reps are talking about how there is a reduction in bandwidth for video streaming services, which is kind of the same thing as saying they're throttling.
I mean, there's no getting around. Maybe they didn't read his document very well. I know it's a pretty large document and runs net neutrality, and they thought they were going in the right space. But at the end of the day, they're prioritizing traffic, and they're essentially shrinking everyone down. And then if you opt in to binge on, you get that ability to get that, I guess, the little HD button. Supposedly, it's kind of what's happening here. So. It's the first time we're seeing this sort of happen, so it's a little bit more difficult in terms of I don't know. It's just silly to me. I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's just like I don't understand why they just didn't turn high quality on for everyone and just shut up about it. Because if the thing was on high quality, no one would care. But it is what it is, I suppose, and I guess it is what it is, I suppose, and I guess eventually at some point we'll have to look at how they can tweak this around so it falls more in, well, it falls into the law, but more falls into the, like Sam said, the proper spirit of what net neutrality is supposed to be about.
So just on that note, and like I said, I do kind of want to move on to, I think we've given T-Mobile enough of our time, but LGH on the live chat writes, if you aren't offering the same capacity based on the type of service, you are crossing the principle of net neutrality. So this basically means that you don't have real net neutrality. LGH was asking if we didn't have actual legal tenets for net neutrality, and I was explaining in the live chat that we only just recently, the FCC in our country only just recently claimed the authority to regulate the internet like a utility. And then I had... my live chat skips so fast, I have a hard time keeping up with some of the comments. I lost another one. There was another one in there, but I think we'll have to get to it on to the rest of the show. So this is where I'm going to take a bit of a back seat in managing this live stream, because unfortunately I was not able to make it out to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this year, even though I live closest out of all of the people here to actually making it out to Vegas. So welcome to the CES Roundup, as hosted by some gadget guy, but as described by Warren Bowman, BW1, Sam, and Anabong from Board at Work. I'm super stoked to hear what your experiences were on the show floor, and what cool new tech we might have in store for us over the coming years. So let's start with just a quick round robin on what was your biggest surprise on the CES show floor this year. And let's start with Sam, because Sam's super quiet.
I'll say Sony, man. Sony was my biggest surprise, man. The fact that they basically doubled down on LCD screens, and they're trying to convince everyone else that LCD screens are where it's at. And the fact that they don't want to actually make that jump over to OLED is just boggling in my mind. I'm wondering what exactly Sony's trying to do with their TVs, and if Sony wants to be in the TV market for any time in the foreseeable future. I just don't understand what they're doing. To me, that was the biggest surprise out of everything.
Well, don't we have a reactionary Sony right now? I mean, on the local news broadcasts out here, one of the hottest things people were talking about was their turntable for vinyl.
I haven't gotten to see those yet, but
I mean, that's what I mean is like they're trying to talk up LCD, and then for audiophiles, their big product push this year was we've got a record player.
Oh wow, well, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it's just to me, it's just the whole idea that we know that Samsung. It's almost implied that Samsung is going to come out with something with OLED at some time in the future, probably sooner than later. We know that we have issues with OLED. We know that LG is still pushing it because they want to be first. They want to have that first mover's advantage. But Sony is telling us, literally looking at both face, telling us that LCDs with bleed issues, light bleed issues, are where the technology is going. Is where everyone wants to be. And I'm there staring this guy in the face, this rep in the face, and it's like everyone behind us knows that too. They look at it. I literally said that's light bleed, right? To E. Someone walks behind and says the exact same thing. And the rep is still talking about, oh, Sony's going to be in the market for so long. We're doing great on the TVs. I'm like, okay, no. There has to be some form of reality going on here. But, you know.
Reality distortion field going on. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was stoked to see a record player, but I didn't keep up with their TV announcements this year, and it seems kind of I don't know. It seems kind of defensive on Sony's part. Like you're going to talk up what you've got a great investment in, but it doesn't sound like this company is really executing on the R&D. Like LG Displays always puts on an amazing roundup. Not LG Electronics, but LG Displays, where you'll go in there. It was the first time I'd ever seen a transparent OLED screen before, and so they were showing it off for what do you call it, vending machines. So you would just touch on the screen what you wanted to have to order, and it was completely transparent, and you had all of these graphics and all of these really pretty colors and stuff going on at the same time. Warren, what was your biggest surprise on the CES show floor? I was surprised that Sam went negative. That was my biggest surprise of talking about surprises.
Well, for one thing, I'm surprised. Speaking of Sony, I'm like, I don't know why they're not jumping OLED with there's two other manufacturers outside of LG that are on the show floor now showing 4K OLED TVs.
Yeah, Panasonic.
I'm sorry, no. It's Panasonic, Hisense, Changhong. It's actually 5. It's 5. There's a few more manufacturers, 5, that are showing these out right now, and they look just as good. And they're putting them out there, and they're going to be available. And for whatever reason,
do you know if those companies were fabbing their own OLED displays, or is it that they're licensed?
I know the Chinese manufacturers are getting it from LG.
They're getting it from LG.
That's what I thought. Like LG was going to be the big player this year.
They're getting theirs from LG, but still, the fact that there's other people putting out, LED TVs, and Sony's still sitting there thinking about it, just tells you where that company is at. But probably the biggest surprise, I don't know, on CES, a fridge with a tablet in it.
Was it the Samsung fridge? Is that the one with the cameras inside too, so you could look inside your fridge?
Probably, right?
Yeah, it's probably the coolest thing they announced was that whole.
Get it? The coolest thing?
It's probably the.
Mine is way too chippy this morning.
I'm telling you guys how happy I am that I got the most sleep, and I get to be the animated one this week. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, we're on his time zone, and
we're in his ball court now.
And he hasn't been on the show floor for 6 days in a row. So.
Yup. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had crying baby to contend with, so not the same kind of stress. But so Enabong, what was the biggest surprise on the CES show floor this year?
To echo Sam, I'll split into two. My biggest negative surprise was Sony, because we both walked into the booth. We spent 45 minutes at the press conference. There was nothing exciting.
You spent that long there?
Yeah.
And truly wanted to see what Sony had to offer.
Yeah, we wanted to see because I do a lot of TV reviews. And people have always asked me, how about Sony TVs? So I actually went there to go record. I started recording it and I stopped, which is why you will not see it on there on the channel, because I was very disappointed. I really was. Not because I don't like Sony or anything. I just thought that they would at least come up with something. So on that end, yes. On the negative side, yes. Now on the positive side, there were three things that caught my attention. One, I would say I like HTC's in marketing push at CES for the Vive, because anybody who had a computer, or any computer manufacturer, or anyone who had any kind of PC-like demo had a Vive station there for you to check it out. So we went to HTC, and then if you went over to a few of the partners, they had it at Pepcom. They had it at different places. Even I went to MSI. There was a Vive station there. So anyone who was a PC manufacturer other than Razer, HTC just sent out Vive units so people could try it out and use it. So that I liked seeing that from HTC. It was almost sense of like they're beginning to learn what they need to do, on this front. The TV, sorry, the fridge. The fridge is actually pretty cool. It doesn't sound like it is. We have a video coming up tomorrow, but it is really cool. It's one of those things where we're probably going to talk about more the connected home, especially what Samsung has now done with it in their whole setup. I think really works. And I mean, my favorite device this year, which even though it's a TV, doesn't sound too sexy, is the LG G6 Signature. That thing is beautiful. Once you walk up and you look at it, you will go, okay, damn. I mean, the picture quality looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing on it. So
the term they're using for it is picture on glass, right? Because that's literally what it is. It's a picture on glass. It's so thin.
So so in as a quick tangent to what you were talking about there, I'm glad you brought up the Vive. We got a lot of big news over the last week, and a lot of very cranky sentiment from people not too happy with pricing on the Oculus.
Yeah.
So the Oculus pre-sale is going up. It's going to be $599 with an Xbox controller. I don't know when the Touch, their tracked motion controller, will be shipping. It's really interesting to me to hear, Anabong, that Vive was popular on the show floor. That with so much noise about finally having a consumer solution with Oculus, that more people weren't using Rift for their demos.
Oculus is hard to find the show floor outside of their booth.
Yeah. The Oculus was hard to find. I mean, they had the massive booth where there were huge lines. But I think it was just more the fact that HTC took a different approach and decided, hey, if we just go out to all our partners and just dump it there, more people will have a better chance at using our stuff. Which is why that's why I said I really was happy to see HTC do something very different and not have like a massive. I mean, they had their own booth area where we went to go, but almost everywhere I turned, I was like, Vive here. I was like, wow. This is good. This is sensible, especially for a show like this. And I think part of it probably was also the fact that they knew Oculus was going to make an announcement, so they wanted to do their own, I guess you could say their own mini marketing within the show, so that that message gets pushed out altogether.
So, do we think that this is an HTC that is going to start? Well, first of all, do we think this is an HTC that's going to undercut the Rift?
Price?
They're gonna have to.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think they can even because one of the things I remember I saw your post about the CEO of Oculus and pricing, and he came out and apologized. I call it the new CEO mistake of talking too much. You should have just said, we'll try and make it affordable and we'll see what we can do. And then when the price comes out, you don't have any apologies to make. So on that end, I think HTC will try, but I think, to me, this is the thing they have to do. They need to launch the Vive with Half-Life 3 and then call it a day. Because that's the one way you will actually take that sentiment because you have a flagship or a killer app. I mean, it's like launching a game console. That's what it is. You know, we've gonna people forget that these two VR machines are technically game consoles. I mean, the way they're being pushed right now. So they need to have that killer app that says, you know what, I want to buy the Vive or Oculus because of a few certain things. Because the demos are nice, but you also want something with meat on there, to actually play.
Well, and because Warren, you had said that Rift was only found in their booth. Do you think that there's an opportunity for any other companies into this space? Like, did Sony have any presence on the floor with their VR solutions?
Yeah, I believe Kenny went. I get a chance to check it out, but Kenny, I don't believe he went and checked out the Sony. I think it's called Sony VR now. It's not no longer called Project Morpheus. I know he has it on. I haven't gotten his full thoughts on it. I know he has a video somewhere. I'm sort of using it and playing around with it. And I remember he said he did like it when using it, but obviously there's no pricing or anything announced or release dates with that. So, but it's it'll be interesting. I almost think I'm not surprised at $600 devices. It seems like that's what something like this would start off at. I mean, consoles start off at a high price and they come down after a while. I mean, HTC could pull the PlayStation 4 move and undercut the price on them by like $50 or $100 just to get more units out there. Because really, right now it is a unit race, and the more units of one out there, the more better chances that's going to get developed. So if you got something like Oculus selling for $600, while HTC goes out and says, all right, we can push this and put it out there for $500, that's gonna be an enticing price for people that are looking at getting VR for entertainment, considering that there isn't a guaranteed winner in the race. There isn't somebody that's clearly ahead. There isn't somebody that's preferred. So the most people know of VR right now is Samsung Gear. People know Gear VR, and that works
with cardboard.
Yeah.
They don't know of a premium VR solution. And the opportunity is there for HTC to push it out.
I'm sorry, what was that, Sam?
I haven't Oculus been out long enough actually for it to be a more recognized brand. I think maybe HTC is making this big push because they haven't really had enough people. They haven't really sat down and, no one really sat down and used a Vive before. At least I haven't heard of so many people who've done that. And all of a sudden now, CES is making this big push. But Oculus has been out for almost 2 years now. People have been using the developer version. People have been building games specifically for use with Oculus.
Is there a consumer-based product out there yet for them? No. So it's not out.
Well, I think
it's not out.
I mean,
I think one of the
recognition-wise, I think Oculus has that name recognition.
I mean,
I think one of the things that we also see here is, remember, HTC last year said that they were going to come out in April. Oculus, like you said, it's a race for unit. Oculus does a one-up and says March 23rd. And they did that by doing one thing, by basically pushing back the release of their controller, because yes, the motion controller which the Vive has, tried it out. It's good, but it's not ready for prime time. It's one of those things where I have a feeling that if they don't separate that away, that also might delay their own launch process, or have have people with units that tend to be a little finicky, so to speak. So that's something I'm concerned with HTC with. More than because Oculus did the smarter move and just said we'll separate that till end of the year or later date.
I think both of them are going to be buggy when they coming out. We're still going to be buying beta products when they come out the door. That's not going to change that factor.
Regardless of whether or not they're beta, it's also just the issue of whether or not we've got content. And right now, if I were a developer who had been focused on Rift, I would be a little concerned over the audience that I'd have access to. Because, I mean, even when we were talking about Rift back before we had official word on pricing, we were all at least $100 off from what the consumer pricing on this thing was going to be. We were like, at the most, it's going to be like $500 because that's like a mid-range video card. And every $50 up from the ballpark of 350 cuts off another huge segment of the tech buying community, especially the early adopters that would have jumped on this. Like the sentiment in the Reddit feeds if we had known it was going to be this expensive, we would have had a much easier time saving up for it, and we would have. But then to be told that the ballpark was going to be above 350, but that was the ballpark, really put a chill on what people were going to actually spend money on. Like,
can I respond to those people on the Reddit feed? That's just foolishness if you actually believe the 350. I'm sorry.
No.
If you're an early adopter,
I'm
No,
not
no,
gonna.
I'm not gonna sit there and let
Because
that.
no one thought it was going to be 350. We were all talking about what this product would come in at. They the CEO said it was going to be more than 350, but in that ballpark.
Right.
And people and all of the dev kits were around that price point. So we thought for a consumer package, you throw a controller in there like $499. It's $100 more than that, and that's the same kind of debate that we were having with Xbox One when it first launched, with including your Kinect. So I totally appreciate where people would have a perspective on how much this was going to cost, how much money they were going to have to save up for it, especially if they wanted to be in the first round of shipping products that are going to be delivered in March. But then to add another $100 on top of already needing to have a pretty decent PC to run this thing, I can totally appreciate where developers might be concerned over the audience that their software is going to have. Because how much effort do you put into developing for a VR platform that costs $600 on top of having a nice PC? What is your audience there?
True, very, very true. I mean, the CEO made the mistake of coming out and just saying, hey, it's going to be around this ballpark, and probably not, thinking about that for a little bit. Say, maybe we want to get a little bit closer to launch before we say it's going to be in the ballpark of around $500 or something like that. And then it ends up being 600. People can understand that a little bit better.
Yep.
But to come out so early and say, hey, we're looking at about a $350 price point, and you're almost double that. You're almost double the price point.
Because before they were bought out by Facebook, the word was, we want this to be between 200 and 400.
Yeah.
And then they said it was going to be more than 350, but in that ballpark. Again, still supporting that earlier sentiment from back in like 2013 that they were hoping for like a $400 launch price. And those of us that know about launching new technologies, what you're essentially doing is building out an amazing new display technology. So when you look at monitor prices, it's not unreasonable to say that this is a $600 gaming monitor. We get that. Yeah. We understand if you need to have at least an NVIDIA GTX 970 powering this thing, that $600 is actually an appropriate price point. That's not what I'm complaining about. It's the perception that this company was continuing to put forth as to what this thing would be. And now I'm afraid that it's going to put a chill on the VR market. It won't be impossible for them to overcome this, but that now developers might be saying, if I'm a VR developer right now, I'm looking at how I build out better apps for phones. That's where I go first, is I want people to actually use my software, and most of the smartphone community right now has a phone that can kind of drive VR-style applications. How many of the gaming audience are going to be able to really utilize my apps and services if I'm building out for Rift?
I actually think it's two different segments of the same market, so I'm not too concerned. The reason why I say that is, number one, I guess we're going to go to this point eventually, is that one of the biggest things at CES was VR. That was one of the biggest things. Almost everyone had Gear VR style or cardboard, style, unit for a smartphone. So on that aspect, you are definitely right. You're going to see a lot of push there. But I also think that Oculus and Vive are also on a different aspect. They are the high end. And this show really proved, thank you very much. There was one here, I'm here with Stephanie. This is from AT&T. They were giving out a bunch of these.
I have my It Can Wait cardboard over here.
It can wait stuff. Yeah. So they were. I think clearly, both HTC as well as Oculus have shown that this market is actually almost two distinct segments, where there's a high end, and then there's the introductory level, of things with VR. So I'm fine with it. I don't think it's going to be too difficult, because I think gaming actually needs VR more than VR needs gaming at this point.
I disagree with that, but
I mean, I know. I mean,
I disagree
I
with that
think it
too.
does. I think it
Well,
does
I
just
think I
because I
disagree
think
with that
gaming,
too.
hold on. I
game. I
just real
think
quick because I don't want to spend
yeah.
too much more time on VR because there's other things like you were talking about connected home. But real quick, Sam, why do you disagree with the idea that gaming needs VR more than vice versa?
because right now VR is an accessory. It isn't necessary for gaming. I think the next evolution of gaming is really going to be 4K. It's going to be getting that crisp graphics on panels that totally blow your mind away.
No, I
And, and,
disagree. I
and it's
disagree.
also
I
it's
don't think that's
also
necessary.
and it's also going to be like GPU hardware and more synchronization when you're talking about GPU and CPU usage. So at the end of the day, VR to me, it's like 3D. It's nice to have, but if you don't have it, you can live without it. You know, Eve Valkyrie is not going to suck if you don't have a VR a headset. All the other games,
But it would be 100 times better.
it
So
would
so
be
Warren, is that why you would also disagree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same way. I don't think the VR, gaming needs the VR just yet. Gaming needs a lot more other things to happen for it.
different.
And VR right now is an accessory. It's an add-on. It's something that jumps on board with it until you see one of these, console manufacturers sit out here and really put the push behind behind saying VR is going to be cool, something going in the future, which maybe that's what Nintendo's going to do with the NX. Maybe we'll get a Virtual Boy 2 or something crazy like that coming from them.
Wow.
Oh my God, I
Don't put it
still hope
past
they
them.
bring back that branding. I would love to see that branding actually like rise from the ashes and be a good product.
But
Don't
but
put it past them that that's something that they could be working on. But I think that's when we can look at gaming, VR as a necessity within gaming. But right now, it's a $600 accessory that about a certain percentage of the market can play.
yeah, and don't
You know,
forget that VR, basically, I'll put it this way: what type of games is VR being used for right now? One genre of games primarily the focus of VR right now, and that's space sim. You know, that's really just space simulators. The gaming covers so much more than just simulators. So yeah, VR has a little bit of ways to go to cover the entirety of the market. So
So one of the things, because like I'm kind of split between where Enabong is in that I think in gaming circles for gamers, we're really anxious to see what comes next, and VR seems like that could be the next phase of gaming. Or for me, it's more augmented reality. I think AR is actually going to be the thing that drives more gaming into the farther future. Like obviously HoloLens is a cool demo and it's cool tech, but it's not consumer ready at all yet. But one of the things that I find kind of interesting about VR is that right now primary apps for VR are not gaming apps, that they're experience and travel and multimedia environments. And VR seems like it can exist fine in educational spaces, in research and development spaces, and in other consumer
Mhm.
applications that have nothing to do with gaming. So someone could still be looking at VR. So I mean, like one of the first things that I showed off in VR for my wife, because I knew she's not really going to be into gaming, and I didn't want to do one of those like scary room
mhm.
simulators. Like I didn't want to scare her with VR. Was there's a Paul McCartney concert video experience. So you could be in the middle of like a Paul McCartney concert, and you're like, it's like you're sitting on his piano, and you can look out at the crowd, or you can look at him playing the piano. It's amazing, and that won her over into VR being cool. If I had given her a game, she'd be like, okay, I can kind of like play a game. That's neat. But having her watch a passive piece of media, a passive video, all of a sudden it clicked, like I can go places with this. I can do things with this. I can experience things that I wouldn't normally get to do with this. And that's why I kind of agree with Enabong in the sentiment that gaming needs VR more than VR needs gaming, just because this future of multimedia content production can exist separate from game developers.
From
Um,
Yeah, I mean to that point, I'll just say quickly. I know you didn't get a chance to try because you were playing Elite Dangerous Sam, but HTC had a Portal demo where you're in the Portal factory and you're disassembling one of the the Portal robots, and I kid you not, this was for me probably the best this is when I really felt that they actually had nailed the depth perception and the feel right. They had a giant robot, which is almost my height, walk up to me and stood maybe about 2 feet in front of me. It was about to attack me, and I flinched. I not flinched because it was a game. I flinched because he was right in front of me, and I thought he was going to hit me. That's when I said, yes, you've got it because you've taken my physical senses, you put it in this game, and I feel like this virtual thing is going to hit me, even though it's not. And I think you can have that, especially in exploratory game, but it's games where almost like a Tomb Raider, for instance. I can see Tomb Raider working with this because you're searching, you're finding, you're doing all those different things in there, and you can have all those little set action sequences go on. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that the market for VR, I think, is split between the mobile side and then the high-end side of things. Because on the mobile side, almost everybody, I mean, we saw this CES, had a VR headset to dish out and show you stuff and all that at CES.
So jumping into one of the things that we talked about in last week's show, sort of the lead up to CES, we were talking a lot about things like the IoT phenomenon, Internet of Things phenomenon. And so, and Enabong, you had mentioned some of the connected home stuff. That really seemed to be where we thought IoT would go first. So I'm always looking at like personal area network, like how we can build sensors into clothes and trackers into shoes and things like that. But it really sounds like home appliances were much more on display this year at CES than in previous years. And I was hoping you guys could talk about some of those experiences. Like obviously we've talked about a really cool fridge, but were there other devices? How are they connected? What kind of platforms are they using? How are these things talking to each other? And where do we think that will go for the consumer space over this year? Not stuff that might land in our homes 5 years from now, but things that people might be able to go out and buy tomorrow.
Well, I think one of the biggest ones for me was really just Z-Wave and how the big push, at least if you believe what you're hearing from Z-Wave and also Nest, is that they're moving away from Wi-Fi and they're moving more to like a localized area network. So where the connectivity between each of these devices isn't really done via Wi-Fi anymore, but done through a local area kind of network. In your home. So Z-Wave has door locks that you can't, do not need to access the internet for anything. You're basically doing everything through a hub. So for me, it was mostly home. Not the home automation side of things was more for door locks and stuff that I saw. I think that's to me was one of the best applications that. Wow, you traveled all the way from New York to Vegas. You were there with E, and now all of a sudden you're here. Yeah, no, I think for me, home automation is just the whole idea of access control was really big for me. Seeing how you can connect your home, you can connect your garage door to your to your thermostat, to your fridge, to your music player, to your TV, to all these other devices, even to your light bulbs at home, by just accessing one of these access points, and that totally changes the profile of your home. So that was really impressive. And I'll say the biggest indication of where things are going is the signature line of LG. LG has gone ahead and said, okay, instead of just saying we have connected home, they've branded everything as the top end of the signature line. So everything in that signature line is going to be able to talk to themselves. So if you're buying a signature line fridge or a signature line LED panel or a TV, they're going to be able to communicate with themselves, and I think that's actually pretty cool. That's a big statement from a recognizable name.
Well, and Warren, did you get a sense that we saw companies that were building out products on standards, or did you think it was more companies trying to build kind of a closed network for their own products?
I got the sense that they were mostly focusing on their product line, their brand, whatever they had worked within their whole ecosystem. They might have had they might have had one product or another that might work in another ecosystem or whatnot, like one component or something like that might work with another set of things. But for the most part, they mostly focused on this is our connected universe ecosystem, and this is how we put all these things together, and that's the same as it goes, from LG Signature Series to Samsung sort of, what's the Smart Things, I think it's what they call theirs, and
Yeah.
so on. That's what I kind of got the vibe is like we kind of have our own protocol of things, and I think
Well,
once it
although
kind of
I will say this quickly, Samsung is open, is part of the open platform, so you can
Yeah.
add any
Other
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 thing.
companies.
other
Yeah,
things.
companies can be asked.
I think they're all kind of mum about it until I think this matures a little bit more. Then they might say, yeah, hey, this works with whatever you want. But I think they're all trying to right now get that claim, so to speak, of trying to be, you're involved in our ecosystem, so we want you to have all of our products versus, try to mix and match and so on. But I do know
Well,
like certain
sorry, go
things
ahead.
won't.
Sorry.
I do know certain things won't work. Certain things like the LG, like the Samsung TV, like certain features like the mirroring of the TV and stuff like that. You need to have Samsung based TV for that to actually work. So things like that are kind of apparent on it.
So like
Yeah.
open for most things, but then you've got your special secret sauce for
Yeah.
when other
Well, no,
devices
I
are
won't call it. I won't call it special secret sauce. I think it's more. I guess you could say it's more logical devices. Like the Samsung TV that has the giant LCD right on there.
connected.
It's quick. It's quick and easy to mirror your Samsung TV to that fridge to watch content. But then it's open to things like Nest, Ecobee, Amazon Echo actually is already on there. So those other things that they know that they're not going to make. It's open to everything, but those other things they're not going to make are already readily inputted into their framework, so to speak. So it's that kind of mix and match. I did like Samsung's offering the best compared to others because Samsung did what any good company would do when you're trying to jump into the space. They bought somebody else, and they bought somebody
Buy
else.
your way in, man. That's the best way.
Yeah, and that company was very good at adding other little connected home sequences. But I think what Samsung did this year that I did like was what they did with the appliances as it relates to the TV. So one of the cool things with the TV was you're watching TV. I know it may sound silly, but for you, Juan, I think you will appreciate this more. They had three modes on the TV. For instance, the smart home. You hit a cinema button, it dims down your lights, sets it into cinema mode. You can watch your content, and then it had the baby camera. You can actually check, and the feature was not up yet, but there was a picture-in-picture. So just because you have that larger screen, if you're there, you can definitely see that. You can also answer your doorbell directly from the TV as you're watching. Those simple things that made it easier. Plus, the home appliances is also connected to the home hub, where you can turn off your what do you call it again? Your oven if you thought you forgot it, or you can actually check the cycle in your
The washing machine.
washing machine. Yeah, washing machine. Yeah, things like that where it felt like a little bit more connected. And the thing about the fridge that we all liked was that camera. You mentioned it has a camera in the fridge, but it's also connected to Instacart, which means you can actually start directly ordering from your camera to your cart and get everything delivered if you're one of the people who use Instacart or shopping apps like that. So
Well,
they thought more.
it's currently Fresh Direct and
Yeah,
ShopRite.
right.
They're working with Instacart to eventually have that supported, and eventually there'll be a thing where it'll connect to whatever local online grocery shopping location is in your area. So in the Northeast, Peapod would be supported for them, and then where other places might be Amazon Direct or whatnot. It just depends. It will localize eventually. So around that, I know Instacart is I think the next big one that they're working on for it to work, but it's not
Yeah.
available as of yet.
So we actually see these things starting to impact other services.
Yeah, it was cool.
Then.
What did you say?
So we're starting to see these things actually start to impact other service economies too, where you're talking about like a person has to at a supermarket bag up your groceries for you, and you were able to put that order in through an app on your phone that was looking in at cameras in your fridge.
Your fridge. Yeah.
So we're looking at like Samsung actually driving the Uber of grocery stores then. Like it's coming first from the
I mean,
hardware side.
Hmm.
side, yeah. It's fascinating that on the connected home side, all those things are coming together. Even LG had its own, version of the Amazon Echo speaker. I can't forget what it's called, too. So, looking at all this, looking at the way that now finally the a home automation system has grown up, and it's not just separate devices anymore. That even companies who have their own ecosystem understanding that, look, we can't build everything ourselves, right? We need to be able to allow people to come in, but it needs to still be on our service, because it's all about connecting it as a service and making it drive things forward.
And do we think that, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, I was just kind of curious if this was brought up at all. Here in the United States, we have a very antiquated electrical grid. Do we think that these smart devices are going to communicate with homeowners and communicate with electricity providers in a way where we can start improving our power management from the home as opposed to waiting for our nation to catch up with a smarter energy grid?
Mm. I
I
didn't hear
stumped you.
anything about that.
No, but I mean, like, so I mean, but that actually kind of answers my question. So there wasn't really a lot of discussion. Like, one of the features you mentioned, like, if a smart oven is connected to an app on my phone, and I worry, like, oh, I left the house, maybe I left the oven on, I can check and I can disable that. Or like, hey, I'm about to watch a movie. I can shut off all the lights just from my phone as I'm starting the movie. My TV's going to say, hey, they're watching a movie. Let's dim everything. No
Yeah.
one at any of these booths or anything were talking about power management issues or power solutions or anything like that for smart
No,
devices.
no one, but I think that also might be so I forgot who regulates home or electrical or power management stuff nation. One of the things that I found from Samsung is their smart cookers. You cannot remotely turn off the burner or the countertop, because they are not allowed to do it, which just sounded like
Ah,
really
okay.
weird to me. They were like, yeah, you can turn off your oven, but for some reason they're like, look, we can't do it physically. We can. That's not the issue. We just can't legally
There are
do it according
regulations
to
as to what you can automate
regulation
for
boards.
something that might have a
Yeah,
burner
and,
on it.
and I think that's where a lot of those limitations now start to fall into. Because if something as easy as a countertop stove or a burner, where you could go, oh, it's great, I don't want to burn my pot just because I forgot, and I stepped out of the
Mhm.
house, then those kind of power management issues might, definitely fall into that segment.
Gotcha. So,
Yeah.
moving, sort of taking a step, still trying to talk about Internet of Things. That we saw a lot of reports on sort of new smartwatches. Casio had a new smartwatch out there. Razer had their newer smartwatch out there. Did you get a sense on the floor from? I want to start with you, Warren. Did you get a sense on the floor that we're trying to figure out this market beyond just fitness tracking, or did it just sort of reinforce the feelings that, because I know you're very critical of smartwatches, did it just sort of reinforce the feelings that that smartwatches are sort of a dead end, and that you need more feature specific things like fitness tracking to get people to wear technology?
It was mostly fitness tracking. Smartwatches really wasn't a thing really talked about that much, which means that probably all we're going to hear about at MWC. So I think outside of Huawei and Samsung announcing new finishes and Razer showing off their watch, it was mostly fitness, some type of fitness tracker, a wearable, and different, obviously, body part, different body parts of wearables where you can wear them. And that was really the main focus. Fitness was a heavier focus, I think, this year for most of the devices than it really was for smartwatches. So, get ready for NWC, mobile smartwatch conference or whatever it's going to be, because that's all we're going to hear out of that conference, because we didn't hear much on smartwatches this year at CES at all, other than new finishes. I don't know if you guys heard anything different. It was mostly just like a new finish on the same thing.
Well, we heard announcements from Samsung that the Gear S2 was going to be compatible with iPhone in a future software update.
Yeah.
And then we did hear a little noise from traditional watch manufacturers. Casio was pushing forward with smarter watches, and I think Fossil also announced. I don't know if they announced it at CES, but there was word of Fossil also talking about trying to up their smartwatch
And
game.
Movado to actually showcase their watch somewhere. I can't remember. I saw it.
Enabong, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this too. You were just holding something up, and I couldn't click over fast enough on the live chat to show off what you were holding.
So this is the Razer Naboo watch. It looks like a Casio G-Shock. It really acts like a G-Shock also in terms of I mean, if you guys know the Martian smartwatch, it's basically the same thing. It's got a regular watch display. It's kind of hard to see because my lighting here is not that great, but it's got a regular watch display on the top, and then it's got a ticker at the bottom. The watch battery for the regular watch will last you 2 years, and the smartwatch internals will last you a week, according to Razer. Now, in terms of use, I've used it now 2 days or so since I got it from Razer. It's like the Martian watch. That's pretty much what it's focused on. Razer has not, like, I was hoping to see some gamification. I know we had talked about this, Sam, and of some level, I don't know, maybe and to a certain degree, they kind of egg you on certain things, like my step goals, it's like 10,000, and you're like, you have 650 more, and it pops up on my phone, and it pops up here, and little things like that, but. It's still literally a watch with a fitness tracker attached to it. That's literally what it is. I think the person who had the best fitness watch was Casio with their, I forget what it's called, but it's pretty much like an Ironman triathlon watch. It has so many sensors and things in there that if you were lost in the wilderness, yeah, definitely that's the watch you need, because it's got geosynchronous tracking and all that kind of stuff built into it. So it was interesting to see them at least go to a specific category, which I'm fine with Casio doing that, at least saying, look, our watch is kind of geared to a certain set of people. But to Warren's point, everything was fitness based in some level. You had WeThings with the e-ink fitness tracker that they have. You had HTC with the UA Health Box, which is a whole plethora of more high performance fitness with the dedicated heart rate monitor, the band, the scale. That's more for someone who's looking to do some more extensive training. So in terms of fitness and smartwatches, it really boiled down to that kind of basis and less of an update from what we already have right now.
Well, and Sam, I wanted to get your thoughts on. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, because I actually have a question specifically for you on this.
Oh, okay.
Do we think that traditional watch manufacturers, because they're late to the game, Casio's talking about releasing smarter watches, do we think that they are the companies that will turn to unseat the dominance of companies like Fitbit? Fitbit kind of won the year this year for 2015 for wearables. One of the most popular things that people were strapping to their arms was some form of a Fitbit. Do we think that they have the recipe to jump in to reassert dominance? Because Casio has a brand for rugged stuff, rugged watches, build quality, stuff like that.
I think it still boils down to exactly what these smart wearables really should be. And for me, smart wearables have always been about fitness. So if they're coming out and saying, okay, good, we're going to make it fitness focused, and you get a great timepiece as well, yeah, they might unseat people like Fitbit from, that dominant position. But the problem is that, before you know it, Fitbit is going to move away from the whole, or should I say the smart wearable is going to move away from the watch form factor. If you were at the Qualcomm booth, there is a smart shirt that they were beta. They're basically just giving a quick view of this beta, still in development shirt that actually measures your movements when you swing a golf club, and it actually uses haptic feedback as well as a screen readout to tell you exactly how well or how poorly you're doing. I can see Fitbit moving into a market like that because guess what? Fitbit isn't known for making watches. They're known for making a bunch of other products that are around fitness. They have watches, yes, but they also have scales, and they also have other device, other health-conscious devices like pedometers and things of that nature. So Fitbit coming out and saying, you know what, we're going to release a shirt that gives you all of this. It makes sense. Now, if a Casio or a Movado or any of the other bigger companies come out with something like that, it is so off of their, of their current market, and I don't even think they're even. I don't even know if they're thinking in that, that far along yet. So the market has moved so far that for them to just, come out with watches to try to topple Fitbit might not be enough. Yes, they might sell more smartwatches at the end of the day, or smart wearables, smart watches at the end of the day. But Fitbit still has that potential of winning the smart wearable.
So we think a company like Casio is just going to be too conservative. That if they're going to diversify their product lineup to include a smart shirt, they'll do it after it's been proven, which means they won't be upsetting the market. They'll just be compliant with the market, reacting to the market. Because I mean, like, for as much as we've talked about, because I think I'm still probably the most positive of the four of us for smart watches, not necessarily fitness trackers specifically, but smart watches in general. Is that like one of the bigger successes for Android Wear right now is the Tag Heuer, that they are so backward right now. Oh, I think that was me. They're so backordered right now, and it's because we've seen from them finally like a watch that can compete with the Apple Watch just in terms of price, not because it's the better technology or the better tech solution. That it's a style commentary that it's specific to that audience. For smart watches, if Movado gets into the game, they have a real chance at shaking up Apple Watch. Not because it's the better technology, but because it's a fashion statement that people might that might appeal to a certain demographic. No,
Yeah,
no one going with me on that.
I mean, no, no, you're right, but with all these companies jumping into the smartwatch fray, the high-end manufacturers, again, they have a certain market segment, and some of the people in that segment want smartwatches. So, yeah, it's definitely going to happen. But in terms of what we've seen here at CES, just going back to Warren's point, it really wasn't a focus at all. I mean, even Huawei just basically showed off their female version, or at least a women-centric version of the Huawei watch, right? So I think, we might see a little push. I think also, especially with smartwatches, since Android Wear is the largest pool of smartwatches, until Google decides to fix their operating system on that thing, it's going to be the same thing across the board anyway. So it really doesn't matter at all until the software itself grows to match any thought process of what you want to create. Because one of the interesting things is, if you look at the Casio watch, whether you don't like it, whether you think it's segmented, it runs Android Wear, but it has a lot of Casio features that are not in Android Wear, because they have to do so many other things in terms of the wilderness and the triathlon type athlete that Android Wear does not support. So it's going back to that old Android adage of Samsung using Android and then throwing everything of theirs on top of it, because Google hasn't done anything with it at all.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of exactly what a smart wearable should be, and that's what we can see from Google. They think it's a notification device. They think
it's an extension of Google Now. That's all Android.
It's an extension of your phone. It's an extension of the OS on your phone.
Not even the OS, just Google Now, just the card that you would get from Google Now.
And that is not what it's. I keep on saying it's smart wearable, because I think we've moved past just smartwatches. I think we really have moved past smartwatches. And like you say, Juan, you want to see shoes that are connected. You want to see clothing that's connected, and that's already happening. And Qualcomm is trying to be that chip manufacturer that actually is in every single one of
yes, that's the thing, that I'm surprised that Nike has not just created one or two shoe lines that are just
do it.
No, exactly. These are the Nike just do it shoes. You want better running performance. You know what? You like hiking, all that kind of stuff. It's there, right? To me, you should have at least one or two lines that already, because we all run with our smartphones anyway. So which means Bluetooth connectivity is already set with that, And I'm surprised that none of those shoe manufacturers have done that. It should be like the easiest thing, I think. I mean, unless
Well, and especially because
foolish.
like when I was really trying to use a Fitbit Flex, the crappy little Fitbit that never really worked great for me, I never wore it on my wrist. I always had it in a sock or kind of tucked into a shoe because that seemed to be the most accurate footstep tracking that I could get. And it's really surprising to me that Nike hasn't started doing like, you remember those old shoes, kangaroos, that had like the zipper pocket on the side and you could like put
Yeah.
in like $1 and change or something in your shoes. I'm really surprised that Nike hasn't done something like that, either a strategic partnership with a company like Fitbit, where if you have a Fitbit Flex, we have a special sleeve on these Nike running shoes that you can put the Flex in your shoe for the most accurate footstep travel, or for their own pedometer style solution, even just to limp into the market with something that just tracks steps. I'm
Yeah, but
shocked
Nike has
that
done
Nike
that
doesn't have
already.
something.
Nike has done that already, but they've tied it so closer to the Apple ecosystem that I think they're going to have
Yeah,
a
okay,
hard
that's
time
true.
removing it.
Yeah.
The Nike Plus has always had that. They've had shoes that had the little Nike Plus, call it like a fob in them, that actually worked along with your iPhone or your iPod to give you more accurate pedometer counts. So they've ventured in there. I would venture to say they were one of the earlier ones to do that. However, it is so tied to iOS, and iOS hasn't really done anything on the fitness side. That Nike is, for lack of a better word, shit out of luck. They basically married themselves. They married themselves to someone who is not even thinking of wearables in a way that actually benefits the active individual. So yeah, I think that's where they have an issue.
So especially in talking about where Internet of Things is going, smart wearables. There was another company, a Chinese company, announced a phone that was going to be utilizing Qualcomm's fingerprint screen scanning tech. And I can't remember what the name of that phone company is now. But we're starting to see these little pushes into diversifying how we interact with information, how we track information. Also, the same thing happening to our phone. We're spreading data out across devices and appliances that normally aren't smart. Did you guys get a sense that we're starting to push beyond just smartphones? I know CES is typically not a place where companies really drop smartphone news anymore. They wait for MWC. But we can still get a sense of what accessories are being built out, and the major smartphone manufacturers out there talking about what their solutions for the coming year might be. Are we moving beyond just the glowing rectangle that you hold up in front of your face for all data interactions? Actually, Warren, if you want to start off with that.
Okay.
As far as that, no, not really. I mean, there's only really was one. And I think mostly we got a lot of mid-range phones that we got announced that were on that level, but still the same sort of glowing rectangle that we just stick on our face for data. I'm just thinking like not really that I could think of. I don't know if you guys have heard any more.
The show didn't really highlight the mobile device as well.
I mean, the Huawei Mate 8 was probably the most high-end phone announced.
Yep.
Out of
well, and
anything.
that's still kind of a mid-ranger, isn't it? It's like upper mid-range.
Oh no, this is a flagship.
That's
phone.
their new flagship coming out. Okay.
Yeah, it's their best phone that they have out right now, and we saw a couple of unlocked phones in sort of that unlocked sort of mid-tier category, like Blue.
So you can always count on Blue to have like a dozen new devices at any show. I mean, you go to a CTIA and they're like, "Here's Blue, and we've got a dozen new phones."
Yeah, I think for them though, this was a breakout year in terms of the way they wanted to make an announcement, more than anything else. Especially the fact that their phones are 150, 200 with USB Type C.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Much more premium finish from their lower, from the phones in that price range. So it was interesting to see. I think in terms of that arena, both Huawei and Blue came out screaming. Like Huawei had that press conference, and they were like, "Here's our devices. Everybody grab a device." That kind of thing. They were like, "Look, we're going to make some noise."
Samsung has done in the past, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Announce the device, put it in, get people to evangelize for you.
For you. And then on Blue side of things, Blue didn't give out devices, but they had a showing where people got to see it, and just made noise to say, hey, we're here. We're here to stay as a competitor. So it was good to see like this smaller companies, or at least smaller in terms of market share and mind share, really make that push to say, hey, look, we can make growth in the market space. And even Huawei's e-brand Honor also had a launch event too, of their
I meant the
mid-range
Honor
device. So
X5.
the X5, yes, thank you.
This
So
is the
it was
Mate
interesting
8
to see
here.
those companies do that over in at CES.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful looking phone, actually. That's very nice.
Yeah, this Mate 8's a
My
pretty
internet
slick
connection is
device.
turning it into sort of like a warped,
Light
like
show.
light show.
Light
But it did look from the few still
Yeah,
frames we got. It did look like a pretty phone.
show.
it's a pretty fun.
Yeah.
We have an unboxing on the site, so if you want to see a better look at it, it's up there.
I think for Huawei, what really got me is they took their time to announce, to have this press conference or to have this lunch event, and then they coordinated it so well that you were able to grab a device or go and have like your hands on the device before you even came back and grab the device if you had one of those bands to grab one. It was just so impressed. I was so impressed with the fact that they're looking to emulate what people like Samsung has done, what people like LG has done, which is we're going to shorten the amount of time that people between announcements and hands on the phone. And when Samsung did that earlier on with its earlier Galaxy devices, look what happened. And I hope Huawei experiences the exact same thing in the US where they actually grow because devices like this that cost less than these the high-end brand that we currently have will really shake up the market in the US. So good job, Huawei. I was really impressed with the whole coordination and getting the devices out.
It'd be nice if they start on time.
There were a few issues this CES of people not starting things. Yes.
So we're kind of getting to that time, guys. We should start wrapping this up. But I was curious because those were my specific questions about the CES show floor this year. I always like to know what the breakouts are. I kind of still have this idea about CES still being a good place to break mobile technology. Obviously, it's a focus for a lot of us is to talk about phones and stuff like that. But I was wondering if there was anything else that you guys were really impressed by or really
Drones.
disappointed in. Drones. Okay, Sam, tell us about
Everyone had drones.
Yeah, right.
Everyone had drones.
There was all kinds of drones, Sam.
All kinds of drones. No,
Everybody
seriously.
had a drone.
Everybody had a drone.
People that making cases got a drone.
Yeah. Of course, the bigger names, DJI and Parrot, really, they showed up. Parrot had this really, I'm sorry, DJI had this really cool show that they had on like maybe every 30 minutes or every hour, where they had red and black, no, red and white drones, and they were almost having, it was almost like it reminded me of Beat It. You could have played that song and the red drones would flip forward and the white drones would pull back. I'm like, oh, okay. So they were really showcasing what those drones could do. But I think the biggest thing there is I was walking away from looking at at these drones, and bam, I walked right into an FAA official, and we got to talking about the laws and everything, and it's actually very, very interesting how they view drones going forward. People will say safety issues is this. Yes, it's all of that, but I think they've really taken a very forward thinking approach to legislature around drones, and that is the weight limit, right? If you have a drone that could actually hurt someone if you fly it like an idiot, then yes, you should register it. If you have a drone that wouldn't do that, then hey, that's cool. Go ahead and have fun. If you're someone in a business, register your drone for business use and things of that nature. And not only from the FAA, I guess, official or staff that I was hearing this from, I was also hearing this from people on the DJI side, people from even smaller companies that can't really, what was it? Not, I guess Ciro's not a smaller company, but Ciro was at the staff at Zero was actually also saying things to this nature, like if you're going to use it for business, then definitely you should register it. These are the ones you don't need to register. They show you the smaller ones that are below, I think, 3 pounds, and they show you the larger ones. They're like, okay, these ones you would need to register, but everyone had drones and drones in so many different sizes. It's amazing that people weren't flying those things and hitting each other in the face, because I guess that's why they left the batteries in a lot of these things unpowered. But it was a lot of drones.
and yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was gonna say we were missing the drones. We didn't get the robotic dancing at LG's event like we usually get with the little Roombas.
Oh
We
yeah.
didn't have that this year.
No, but Parrot showcased its fixed wing drone, and
Oh yeah,
it was tethered. Actually, it had to be tethered in a cage, and it was flying around in circles. But that's
the one that
that's
looks
gonna be
like a flying wing airplane.
Yeah,
Right.
airplane. Yeah. It goes up to 50 miles per hour.
Oh, I will say, probably one of the coolest drones that I did see was at the Intel booth. Was the one that was able to track you via a helmet, so you could actually bike down a path, and it would just follow you.
Yeah.
And it would follow your helmet, and it would be able to dodge any type of obstacles that was in front of it. So you could go on some type of extreme parkour or whatever, trip down somewhere, and you'll see this thing follow you and track you the whole way around. And that was like one of the coolest things to kind of see was that. I mean, they didn't do it at the show floor. It's just he's just kind of in a little circular pit and just kind of moving left to right. But there's a video that shows it.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought about that.
Oh, what's that?
No, I was gonna say that would be great in movies, like a Batman cam from the back as he's running and taking out guys and jumping from building.
No,
to
I was gonna say
building
for myself, like if I want to do a gadget review, like out in the hills, like I need to hire a crew. It'd be kind of sweet to have like a drone. Just like...
You heard it here first. Wham Bagnell is Batman.
Batman.
We did get one quick comment from LGH that I wanted to mention, that the company that I was trying to remember the name of the phone was LETV, LETV, and they announced that they are the first with the Qualcomm 820. But one of the other things that I thought was really interesting is that in their announcement they did say they were going to try and use the new fingerprint screen scanning tech from Qualcomm, where instead of having like some kind of sensor, you would hold your thumb or finger on the screen of your device for the fingerprint to work. I just turned on my V10 by tapping the screen too many times, and that to me, like once you start seeing more things like that, like I think by iPhone 8 we'll have buttonless phones, with advances like that. So drones. One other thing that I wanted to ask: was there any cool camera tech on the show floor this year? I know DJI was showing off Osmo, but that's been around for a little while.
They had there was a few like smaller companies doing 360 cameras.
Oh, so more like action style and like panoramic cameras.
Yeah. There was a greater focus on that. Kodak 360 Fly. Kodak showcased the new 360 camera 4K. You can have two of them which gave a really awesomely weird like 360 perspective that was like they call it the Earth sphere. So you can actually make a sphere of your 360 image and jump in and out of it, it was actually pretty cool. And but in terms of like the bigger companies, it was still more of the same little refinements here and there. Nothing that really stood out as being like, wow, that's that's a crazy camera. I think overall,
I heard a lot of disappointment over the traditional camera manufacturers' offerings at this year's show. I think in terms of the tech side of the equation, that people are getting a little frustrated with how slow Canon has been to adopt newer technologies and newer camera settings and features and some of the consumer stuff that we see coming very readily from other manufacturers like Sony.
I mean, Canon always has a big booth, but I got the sense from a lot of people, like, I mean, the lenses is what most people were checking out, things like that, but nothing on the cameras. I know not a lot. A lot of people know that Panasonic isn't releasing the GH5 this year. It looks like it's next year, or at least late at the end of the year. So on that side of things, most people are like, "Oh, we are not expecting anything now. We know that it's coming, just not at this point." Even Sony too. They kind of showcase the stuff they already have themselves.
I
I mean,
think
I
they
didn't.
announced a new 4K camcorder. I think they did. I think
Yeah,
they announced a new 4K camcorder.
yeah,
That's
but
about it.
it
But
wasn't
mostly everyone
anything
was
mind blowing
like,
or anything
I
like
was
that.
gonna say
Yeah.
the excitement is palpable because I can see just how stoked you guys were about like I
Well,
think
well,
announcing.
I think this CES was I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone. For me, it was a little bit of a letdown, because last year we told it was an upgrade year. That's what a lot of people said. This year again was another upgrade year in a sense, and there really wasn't. I think for me, what I really I took away from the CS is that there weren't a lot of smaller companies doing crazy stuff, which you usually get to see in CES.
Mhm.
You get to see, some a piece of technology done in a different way. You go, wow, that's like pretty cool. Not a lot of that I saw this year. So I think that for me was a little bit of a letdown there. And in terms of anything big in new innovation, it really wasn't. I guess other than Internet of Things and home automation.
Right. Well, I think that's a perfect place to sign us off, guys. Any final thoughts on any other? I mean, I know you kind of summed up your thoughts there, but any other final thoughts on the show this year and what we might be looking forward to playing with over the next couple weeks and months?
Sam, Warren, final thoughts?
Oh no, this was kind of chopped up. So his final
it's
thoughts.
kind of chopped up. Yeah.
Yeah.
TVs. I think it would be a very interesting year for TVs, regardless of the fact that we're not seeing much of of a huge technological advance in TV. Just the fact that these TVs are so thin right now, and so I'll say almost embedded into your living space. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly how people move over to 4K, and then during that move to 4K, what 4K technology they actually pick. I'm hoping to see people picking more OLEDs, but the fact remains that Samsung is still a big name out there, and Samsung is most likely going to be, outselling LG on the TVs. But it'll be interesting to see how the technologies pan out this year. I'm actually a little excited about that.
Oh, I think this CES. I don't. I wouldn't call it disappointing in terms of big announcements. I think this year was the medium-sized companies taking a step up and really being, put in the limelight. They're getting attention that they normally wouldn't get. You have companies like Changhong, Hisense, even Elite TV, Huawei and Blue, and those companies getting attention that they normally wouldn't get during the year, that they normally wouldn't get during CES. Usually, it gets wrapped up by the Samsungs, the LGs, and the bigger companies out there. But this year, we have a lot of companies that normally get attention getting attention, and that's a good thing because it's now allowing us to see other products out there that we wouldn't normally see because Samsung didn't make it or Sony didn't make it, so we're not paying attention to it. So I think that was a good thing. I think this year has been mostly about spreading out around who we're talking about in terms of who are the big players in the game and some newer players stepping up their game.
Yeah,
Yeah, very true. And it looks like we lost Juan.
and he's back.
So
Juan's
technically,
back.
we could end this hangout. Is he here?
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah,
You guys get to wrap up. Did you get
Yes,
we
yes,
did the wrap up.
got to wrap up. All right, so
right,
We can head out.
yeah,
So,
I was
so let's end this because I think I'm probably gonna drop out again here in just a bit because Time Warner cable sucks. Let's just get that out and go right now.
You know what the funny thing is? We heard Time Warner Cable sucks.
Cable
So that's
sucks. We heard that part.
I get to
yeah,
plug that every week. I think I'll be happy. So I wanted you guys for joining the week normally on Board It Works channel. So you can check out youtube.com/boarditwork. I've got the link below this video for Board It Work. And also definitely check out everybody's channel here, Warren Bowman, VP1.com. That's the blog name, and it's where you'll him on Twitter, for and on Twitter and the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Google Pluses. You can find us all over the web there. So please check out all of the various channels. And also, thank you so much for joining us. The live chat is amazing, guys. Thank you so much for all the great comments in the live chat. I know I'm going to be super excited to be continuing. Order work will continue the week next week. So real quick, anything that we should be looking out for on the channels? Is it mostly going to be CES videos coverage for next week?
We're gonna have all sorts of CS videos.
Yeah. Okay, check out all the channels. Subscribe, guys. Sorry, Juan. He was so choppy.
Oh, was I breaking up on you guys? Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
completely.
I'm gonna give up because I think we're
All
gonna.
right.
So
Yeah.
so-
thank you everyone for tuning in. And we'll make sure you subscribe to all the channels, and we'll catch you all on next week's Back in Works channel where this show belongs. So thank you, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jeez. Let's see if you can actually end it. Let's see.
I don't have a button to end this, which is ridiculous.
You have no button. Snap.
We have no button to end this.
So I think what we're all gonna do is we're all gonna hang up now, and you all have a fantastic Saturday. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all on the next one.
All
Bye.
kinds of failing. Bye.
Douche. Close tab.
All right, I'm closing out.
We're standing to a show ever.